my two favorite co-hosts of all time, Matthew Sponhour and Theo Ash, and welcome back to another episode of Stay Hot, presented by our good friends over at Little Caesars Pizza. We're Stay Hot. They're staying ready with some hot and ready pizza for you all NFL season long. We are here to preview the NFL Conference Championship games between the Detroit Lions and San Francisco 49ers, and then the Baltimore Ravens and Kansas City Chiefs. Wow. Who could have seen that coming? But before we get into that, Matt, Theo, how are you guys doing on this beautiful Wednesday evening?
I'm doing well. I just got finished picking up a rocking chair that I bought on Facebook Marketplace.
Hey.
It's kind of ugly, honestly, but it's comfortable to sit in. It's a little bit too. Well, I thought it looked good in the pictures, but now that it's actually in my room,
can we see it?
No. No.
So it's really ugly.
It's that bad.
It's just, well, it's ugly where it is, I think.
Okay, how about Theo? If you take a picture and send it to Matt and I, but we won't show it.
I'll tweet a picture of it. I just want to move it. It just is a bit too large to fit in my doorway.
There's got to be some different reason as to why we can't see the damn chair.
Well, I'm not
Lord knows
turning,
what it is.
I guess I could text you a picture. I thought, it could be a funny bit to just turn my laptop all the way around, but I would have to unplug so many cords that I've decided it's not worth it. So,
whatever.
So you can't see it now, but maybe I'll tweet a picture of it.
Okay.
Tomorrow after this episode hits the tomorrow.
He's got the world's ugliest
I gotta get it ready.
I patiently waited in that case.
Maybe it won't look so bad in the picture because I saw a picture of it and thought it looked great. And maybe it is great. Maybe I'm.
Why don't you send out the picture that you saw of it so we can understand
where
you're coming from?
That's a good idea.
Yeah, that's
just like just copped, and then
W or L just copped.
Was Theo wrong for this?
People are going to start slandering it, man, like your cat. They're going to call it F tier.
I was thinking the other day about how much like my cat, like not good enough to be a social media star, my cat. I see these people who have cats that like do funny shit, or they have like a weird face or something, and then they can like post about it 1,000 times, and
what you really got to do,
really
Matt,
make a bag off their cat. My cat's just
you got to give it a ridiculous haircut. That's like push the boundary of what pet haircuts can be. I see posts on Instagram all the time now, since Instagram is trying to be Twitter, and
I'm not gonna fuck my cat
things
shit
I'm
up
not
for some views, bro. That's crazy.
I thought that this was the problem you were trying to solve.
Yeah, but I would just like it. I would like it to just be like interesting on its own,
Well, it's not. So
he's just not. He's got nothing.
He's an L cat.
He's not an L cat. He's just a like.
That's not
just
what
a
I
regular orange cat that just
Stay Hot Discord.
You don't know him like I do.
That's not what I heard. I heard it was terrible.
All right, whatever.
But that's what I'm worried about, that people are going to call my chair like, they're going to make a tier list of just a bunch of chairs and put that one down at the bottom.
How about this? We'll tier list my couch, Theo's rocking chair.
Your couch has to be S tier because it came over straight from Dubai.
Ranking quiz here.
Our furniture. Matt's new
furniture ranking
chair that he sits in. That's F tier, the chair behind you. You would even say this.
Oh yeah, this chair sucks. But I'm just not gonna spend $800 on a good chair. I'm just not doing it. So I'm just
I get it.
With having a shit back, like
my chair is from Goodwill, and my couch and everything else, like the rocking chair, is all from Facebook Marketplace.
I'm going to ask my mom where she got my dad's new office chair. That shit is the most comfortable thing I've ever sat in.
Oh yeah, dad office chairs go crazy. They've always got the good ones. I've tried to buy one and it just wasn't the same. I was like, where are
they accidentally sent him 2 of them. I'll see, Matt.
Tell
I'll
him to
see
hook
if you
me
can
up.
get this. Yeah, one of you can come get this chair. It's so comfortable. I don't get it, man.
Should we talk
Matt,
a little football?
I was gonna ask how you're doing, but
how I'm doing. I'm feeling bad that my cat isn't viral yet. I'm pissed that my cat doesn't go viral at all. So
There you go.
There
Are you
go.
getting more and more angry at this? Because before you were like, people don't know him. I have this authentic connection, and now I'm pissed.
Yeah, I'm starting to agree with all the
starting to get mad.
You guys might have interacted.
Real.
Oh my God. Okay. Blaiden, before we talk about the games, you wanted to rant while we're on the topic of just bullshit.
Whatever.
Of just bullshit.
Let's talk about Twitter dialogue.
Twitter dialogues, more specifically PFF grades. JJ Watt went on, I think it was Pat McAfee's podcast, and gave a rant about, how PFF grades aren't legitimate, like they're not real representations of player performance. And then another player tweeted about it today, and Justin Reed and Greg Newsome quote tweeted it. Yes, they're right, but like the problem with PFF grades, as us three know, and some of the people that watch this show know, isn't, I don't even think, the philosophy behind them. It's the people they have doing them. Because I went about doing the math of how many man hours it would take to actually sit down and grade every single player from every single game on every single play for a single season. And it would take lowball just the 17 game season. It's over 13 years.
Well, they get all the shit out like the next day. It's
Exactly.
crazy.
They do college too, man.
Right. They do college. It would take over 13 years to do a single NFL season for just one person.
Yeah, I wonder how many people they've got. There's just not that many ball knowers across.
That is the point. Well, it's like if you don't know what you're looking at.
And even if you do, you don't know the calls.
You can't know what people's assignments are. So how can you? And like, there's a lot of plays where it's like, well, this is outside zone. I know generally what this offensive lineman's supposed to be doing. I know that this is a bad play. But like, people were making the point the other day with that Travis Kelce, like, blown coverage touchdown.
That's what I was just about
Obviously,
to talk about.
the defense messed up there. Somebody was like a -2 or whatever the worst grade you can get on a PFF play is. Yeah. Who it was exactly, though,
we don't know. Like, that was my point. Barnwell asked, like, film Twitter, tell me who's at fault. And it's like, I don't maybe so, it's 30. Everyone was like, it's cover 3. It's cover 3. It's like, yeah, but like there's different types of cover 3 with different guys. Like, there are different codes that distort the cover 3 to send different people to different
and the
places.
way you play cover 3 changes based on the offense's alignment too. Like, if they just come out and straight spread, well then the corners you'll follow number 2 up the seam if he goes vertical, and then you'll get back to the numbers. But if they're in this like tight formation, like everything changes.
And they were bunched up, right? It was out of trips. And then they like switched at the release. So like the number 2 and the number 3 changed. Like number 7 didn't go fast to the flat. So even if 30 went to depth, like there would have been someone wide open underneath. So it's like there's a bit of a communication error between like those two. And we don't even know what the call was in the first place. But it's like one of those two didn't get the spacing right. And then there was someone, Micah Hyde, on the opposite hash, rotating to the center, and maybe Kelce just saw open space and just ran there. The Kelce does that all the time. Like,
that's
you know,
he
could have been like supposed to run a post and then was like, no way, and went to the corner, and it was just open space that he's running to, which is always going to exist. It's tough to, it's just an impossible endeavor. And that's my problem with the grades. And Mitchell Schwartz said something too. He was like, I would have coaches give grades back and they would be horrible too, you know? And it's like, just the concept of grading every play is like just kind of inherently flawed. It really takes a long time, and it doesn't really tell you that like it's a very subjective view of things. It tells you what one person thought on that day, but it can always be changing. And it's like PFF could tweet out a box score that was like, hey, here are attempts, accurate attempts, like turnover worthy plays. You could just tweet a box score thing like that. That would just be way more information than the grades. Like there is good stuff being, and that's subjective enough. Things like pressures and big time throws, like that's all subjective enough before you try to bake it all into one number. I mean, seriously? So those are the things like you should be throwing out, because those are really about as good as I think we can track things now. Is some of those subjective stats before
the
PFF
premium stats, that is I think legitimately a good product.
Yeah, like analytics are useful. Things like pressures are absolutely real, and you can chart them, and you can chart like how many of them
pressure
turn into
to
a below
sack is
average.
a really good one.
Yeah,
really good thing to keep track of. But it's like PFF always tweets about their grades. It's like you have all these stats that are so much more interesting and like tell such a better story that are behind a paywall, that are you could tweet out like in your graphics instead of CJ Stroud 77.8, and then you have to spend all day on your podcast explaining like what that means. Just get rid of the grades and just tweet the stats that you're tracking subjectively, right? That would just be a way more like everyone would have way more respect for PFF if that's what they did.
Yeah, because if they said, well, like let's say they did Jordan Love versus Stroud, and then they just had some of those stats, and they had, like one turnover worthy play from such, nobody would debate that. Like obviously he did.
Yeah,
like,
that's what happened.
He threw it into coverage one time. Like we know that, but I feel like it would also be able to like start conversations better with some of these players. They'll tweet out like this player had an 80 overall PFF grade. It's like that doesn't really tell you much.
Right. What the fuck does that mean? People were on my ass for saying that on Twitter. Like,
I guess this guy is good. But if they tweeted out like, oh, this quarterback, like this prospect's pressure to sack rate is really good, then maybe, you could talk about like how he is when he, gets under pressure and what makes him so good at that, or the reverse, which would probably happen more often. What makes this guy so bad under pressure,
Yeah.
So I agree.
And they put out that kind of content like on their socials and like on their podcast, but it's just not as frequent as the grades. And I just don't think that enough focus is centered towards those things as opposed to the grades, which is kind of their big ticket item. And it just is the worst part of that website, honestly.
I think like the podcast is really good content. I think Sam Monson and Steve Palazzolo, they do a pretty good job of breaking stuff down. And explaining what the grades mean, but it's like I don't know. My thought is like, I think the philosophy behind the grades is fine. It's just there's no way you can do it accurately in any capacity, like without AI, which is like this was literally my proposed capstone project. Like 2 years ago when we started proposing ideas, I was like, yeah, you could use a visual representation model because Microsoft already has that technology, and you could use AI to identify every single player on the field. And then you could then track what the plays developing are. And in real time, it would be able to tell you what the offensive play is, what the defensive play is, what each person's responsibility is on that play. And then that could, in theory, grade people. But even then, with the Kelsey play, there's so much variance.
Right. You still don't know exactly what's called.
You still don't know exactly.
The AI would recognize like, okay, this is some sort of cover 3, but it would run into the same problems we're running into. Where
right.
It's like
and it would probably split blame between two players is what it would probably do.
Which I get, yeah.
But,
which PFF could do. They could give one guy a negative 0.5 and one guy, but I don't really know how to process
it's it's like you have to hire 500 interns to do this. They might not know to split blame.
What is stopping them? And maybe there's an answer to this. I think we've talked about this before. What is stopping them from just like lying?
Nothing.
Could I sign up to be a PFF intern and then just like juice Ivan Pace's grade?
I think that, you would have to go. I think that it would be tough because I think that they do fact check it a little bit. And if it's egregious, they'll like go back and have someone else look. So it would probably be like
95 that day.
You'd have to do it kind of slowly over the course of the season, like
it's like
a 40 becomes a 55, and a 55 becomes a 65. Like,
give him the Jalen Hurts treatment.
Just give him the benefit of the doubt, like always. Just shave some points off. I think that you probably could do that if you were a human grader, like as long as you were able to bullshit the process and like really chart it accurately when they were like going through the hiring process. But then like once you're in and unsupervised, I assume that you have, pretty much.
Or do you think anybody, I guess the better question, like what wouldn't be a joke is, do you think anybody is like biased? And they're like, if they're a Panthers fan and they watch the Panthers and they see like Bryce Young make like a questionable throw, do you think they'd be more likely to not chart it as turnover worthy? I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm sure they have an answer to that I wouldn't know.
I think that some of it might be computer learning, Blaiden, like what they do. I saw a good post on Twitter the other day where someone used motion tracking to determine yards per carry versus a spill versus a dent or versus like a contain, like what's the best way to deal with a puller. So they got all those plays and were able to look at them all. And I think they found that spilling, cutting it off and forcing it outside is the most efficient way to run that play. Like that's super great analytics. So maybe, and I guess I don't know the whole process. That was just a cool study that I saw. But
it's like I think you can implement it right now. I on a small scale, and we kind of see Amazon getting close with like the Prime Vision stuff, and they're already starting to like recognize potential blitzers pre-snap. So we're getting close. I love that thing. And like,
it's pretty neat how that works.
It's super cool stuff, and like I guarantee we will have some form of like fully integrated AI grading within the next 5 years.
And that's the thing. It's all building towards grading. And this is where I do kind of have a philosophical issue with it. It's like, this is all building so we can give them the perfect grade. And again, it's like, that's just kind of a silly way to look at it. Like, oh, they were 99 out of 100 this game. They were 71 out of 100. It's like, break it down into a couple categories and make a graphic. Like that would be, to me, better.
Well, you can show like, what is this guy good at? What is he lacking? But like,
there's just if you have the information, that's great. But what is the most insightful way you can show the public that information and have them understand? And to me, that's like not a grade, but whatever.
Yeah. Give them data points that like they understand and make sense, as opposed to like, here's an arbitrary number. I get that. I think it's going to be funny in like 4 years when we have like an AI say that a corner is on 20% of cover 3 snaps. He's like a net negative, and he's like, well, how do you know that? And then like they can literally chart. They'll be able to like pull up every single rep where he gets beat.
That would be epic.
That's gonna be crazy, but it's coming. Like
they're just gonna send all that corner's L's right to his brain chip. He's gonna be sitting there stunned with all of these reps flashing through his mind.
Were they wrong for giving Patrick Surtain a brain chip?
This will be
Fuck you shows him getting dusted by Devontae Adams.
The beginning of the mutant cyborg era is coming very soon. And it'll start with AI film reviews. That's what it'll.
That'll be the start. They can't take my job. They can't do what I do.
Yeah, they're gonna have an AI voiceover of Theo.
That already exists. God damn it. Our mock draft, our AI mock draft.
From the April Fool's episode.
Anyway, let's get into the conference championship games before we reminisce about the April Fools.
If you have new April Fool's ideas for us this coming year, let us know. But
anyway, let's do Chiefs versus Baltimore.
Make Little Caesars the official pizza sponsor of the NFL part of your game day. Order online during our Pizza pregame 1 hour before and 3 hours after NFL kickoffs, plus all day Sunday. And get ready for some football and some fun. Choose your favorite Little Caesars pizza or pick the toppings you crave. Either way, you win. And speaking of winning, everyone scores with convenient delivery or our in-store pizza portal pickup. So grab some friends and enjoy a few slices during the game.
What are our thoughts? We'll say Kansas City's on offense, Baltimore is on defense. What's it looking like?
It's looking like shit's not sweet anymore, I'm afraid. That's what it's looking like. All fun and games when the team you're playing has no edge rushers or no linebackers.
Right.
And things have been really easy to attack the last two games where it's like, okay, against Miami, they've got
Kelsey versus AJ Klein.
Like Kelsey versus AJ Klein. Okay, well, I'm going to throw it to Kelsey all the time, I think. Or I'm going to run towards AJ Klein. It's like, all right, yep, fair enough. That'll work. I just don't think that's going to fly. And I think you're going to see the Kansas City offense that has been struggling against, the best defense in football right now. I don't know if it's any more complicated than that. I think it's going to be really, really difficult for them.
Yes, I think that I agree. Mahomes is going to be operating, wired at 100 miles an hour. The defense is going to be wired up and going 100 miles an hour. And like the wide receivers, I just don't know if they can operate at like the necessary speed for a game like this. And Kelsey is obviously old, reliable, but you need more than just him.
But he's a little more old than reliable at this point. We're starting to see that shift.
The past couple of games,
he still had a 2-tutty game, but
he's still one of the best receiving
as a Kelsey
tight ends.
guy.
He's definitely been.
I'm savoring these moments.
Yeah.
Yes. He could retire. This is the end of his career. Clearly, this year, the next two probably. But I think if the Chiefs want to win this, I mean, it comes down to letting Mahomes be Mahomes. I try to think, it is, they do have to be in Mahomes, please save us mode. I thought about coming out here and saying like, maybe they should try to run the football, or maybe they should just stick with the quick game in rhythm passes and try to, prevent the big negatives and see if they can win that way. But you've got Patrick Mahomes and that's your advantage. So if I'm them, I'm coming out early and I'm, obviously sprinkling the necessary short yardage stuff, but as much as I can, I think I'm just trying to put the foot on the gas and trying to get explosive plays and seeing if
they drop them, they drop them. I don't know what else you can do.
Yeah, man.
But I'm also expecting that shit to get like spiked back by Baltimore's defense, like maybe it kind of was in the 2020 Super Bowl. Especially if Dooney doesn't play, if he doesn't play, it could get extremely rough. But I just think that this Baltimore defense isn't letting anything through right now.
Yeah, I wonder if some of the blitz stuff that Baltimore schemes up, if maybe Mahomes could just do a particularly good job handling that, and that gives him a little bit of an edge, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Or they don't try it at all, and it's like revealed that that's kind of what that made them special. Like,
I could see maybe
if you're like, oh, I don't want to blitz against all the motion, and Mahomes is always good against the blitz. Like, I don't want to be too complicated. Maybe they ease off a little bit, and that hurts them. I could maybe see that happening.
Maybe, but who's hurting them? Like,
yeah, they don't really have that corner that can't hold up. Like Brandon Stevens gets picked on, but he's been pretty good this year.
He's been pretty good. I mean, do you have someone you feel like underneath isn't going to be able to hang with Kelsey? I mean, I'd feel pretty comfortable.
No, they have
Hamilton,
the best guys to hang with
Kelsey. That's what I'm saying. I think they'd be fine not to blitz, honestly.
I think you send Patrick Queen. I mean, he's such a good downhill guy. Send him on those picks. I mean, it's just so nasty what they do. They get him running before the snap, and then he just kills your center and like leaves the defensive tackle unblocked. It's so nasty. Yeah. So like, I think I'd still be doing that if I was Baltimore as much as I could. It's a pretty awesome. It's kind of awesome what they do. So just because it's Mahomes, I think that you shouldn't lay off of them too much, because those blitz packages are. They're nice. There's nothing.
They are. I don't disagree.
There's nothing fake about him. So I think Baltimore will win, but
I agree.
I never want to count out playoff Mahomes.
Wow.
You want to count out playoff?
I'm counting him out.
Ooh. I might be counting him out.
I might be counting him out.
It is so tough because even if he has a master class, like Lamar Jackson so easily could on the other side.
Here's the thing. I think he's going to play good. I just don't think he's going to win the game. Maybe the Chiefs defense really steps up. It's not impossible. And I think people are maybe looking at both of these games like Baltimore Niners is a foregone conclusion. And I get that. If you're making me make my picks, that is who I'm going with for both of these games. But the Chiefs have a real chance. The Lions have a real chance. This isn't a 7-game series in the NBA. Yeah. This is a 1-game. You get a play or two going your way, you can pull off the upset. Absolutely.
Yeah, these are two teams. If the Bucks got in, I would say probably not. But the Lions and the Chiefs I would agree, are formidable opponents in the conference championships. I see what you're saying though before, maybe I'll kind of play off Mahomes because it really is an uphill battle versus Baltimore.
I've sometimes your team just isn't good enough, man. I just don't subscribe to the idea of this guy is just so good you can't count them out. And so, you can't count them out, I guess. I'm just not picking him to win just because it's Mahomes. I think the other quarterback is also really good, and I think his team overall is better. So, but don't count him out.
Yeah. I think you're asking a lot.
Overestimating what people are saying with that.
Yeah, I just think you're asking a lot from Kansas City, both offensively and defensively.
Trying to beat a real good team.
Yeah, this is about as formidable as an opponent as they've had in their run at the top of the AFC. And this is the weakest version of the Chiefs that we've seen.
Yep.
So they've lost before and they could certainly lose again. That would be my pick. Lamar has been up and down versus the blitz over the course of his career, but this season he's pretty amazing at everything.
He's up.
So I think there's nothing Spags that can cook up that I wouldn't take Lamar over.
Yeah, I guess somebody put it this way on Twitter. They said, do the Ravens have the best defense that Mahomes ever played in the playoffs? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also probably just straight up the best defense he's ever played.
Man,
right? I can't imagine who would be. They're pretty ferocious this year, man. Maybe
they are extremely ferocious.
Maybe some of these Niners defense, I don't know when exactly they've matched up. I'm sure there's a couple other good contenders. Did they play the Bears in 2018? That was a really nasty defense. I don't know if they
maybe
were this
Belichick.
Level,
that's the one that I immediately go to because Tom Brady is 2-0 versus Mahomes in his career, or
maybe that Tampa defense. Then maybe that Tampa defense.
And Tampa shredded them, and I think that could potentially be what if especially if Tooney is out. I think that could be what it looks like.
There's a very real possibility.
But Mahomes, I maintain Mahomes balled out in that game.
He did. Yeah. But he couldn't catch the ball for the fellas.
Yeah, exactly. He definitely. If they could do it over again, the ball would be out of his hands faster. But man, it was pretty rough sledding back there in that one. But yeah, this Ravens defense is playing just as well as that Bucks defense was going into it.
It's pretty much up there with anybody. And this offense, and like you said, especially if Tooney's out, we're getting into count the good players territory. And even if one of them is Mahomes, count the good players.
Yeah, but in the playoffs, that number can become apparent extremely obvious, extremely quickly.
Yeah. So that's my thoughts on it. I think the Ravens are favored. Mahomes could do something. The receivers, any given game can catch the deep balls. It's possible. It can be done. And he can create some magic, and maybe the Ravens blitz doesn't go as well, or maybe Lamar makes a couple of mistakes or whatever. I think the 4.5 point spread, is fair, but I feel pretty good about it. I even
feel like the Ravens could afford some mistakes. I don't know, man. The gap does seem like a lot to overcome.
Steph Curry makes you believe that you can do anything. I mean, look at me. He has me believing that I can shoot threes when I play pickup basketball. And the Curry 11s are specifically designed with ultimate bounce, grip, and stability to allow everyone to do their thing. New generations of ball players are coming up and showing the basketball world that the old rules do not apply. The future is exciting, fast, positive, and hungry. This NBA season, rock your favorite player and rep his shoes on and off the court. The Curry 11s are perfect for both the committed and casual ballers. The UA Warp Tech makes the shoe feel like it was designed for your feet, locked in no matter what you do on the court. Stop in your tracks with dual density UA Flow cushioning and traction, an emergency brake that you don't even notice. Steph's 11th signature shoe steps into the second decade of his sneaker career, pulling colorway inspiration from the wonders of a positive and modernized future on and off the court. Take these kicks with you when you leave the scrimmage and rep UA wherever you go. Do your thing. Change the game. The Curry 11 Future Curry is available now at currybrand.com. I picked the Eagles last year because I thought they were more talented overall than the Chiefs, and then the Chiefs won. But I think this is at a very different level than that was. I think that this is an obviously worse Chiefs team.
And that Eagles team had weaknesses in the secondary.
And Mike McDonald ain't Gannon and Sirianni.
Yeah, I think the coaching, that was the thing. Like the Eagles or the Chiefs had like an advantage in coaching. It's like, where do the Chiefs really have an advantage here? It's like quarterback marginally.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have a quarterback advantage. Yeah,
but that's it. That's like the only place where they really have. Well, I guess quarterback. It'd be quarterback if we're going position by position. Quarterback, defensive lineman, Chris Jones, and then
that's about it.
That's about it.
It's a tough one, man.
It is a tough one. So we think Baltimore will win.
Unanimous.
How about this? Do we think that they will cover?
Yes.
What's the spread?
3.5.
Yes.
3.5. Oh, we're all going to be unanimous on Ravens covering.
I am.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
3.5.
That's low. That's pretty low.
Ravens are at home.
That's saying that this game is a wash. They're giving the Ravens a half a point because they're at home.
So if it was at Arrowhead, they would have. Yeah.
If it was at Arrowhead, they'd have Chiefs -2.5 is what that line says, and it opened at just -3.
It's not at Arrowhead, I guess, which just benefits the Ravens covering spread. So I guess so.
I'm taking the Ravens.
Yeah.
Okay. So we all have the Ravens winning easily.
Before we get into the next game, I want to go ahead and talk to you about something that's been a game changer for me, and it just might be for you as well. Let's chat about Every Plate, your ticket to affordable and delicious meals. Now, you've probably heard about meal kits, but let me tell you, Every Plate takes it to a whole new level. Picture this. For just $1.49 per meal, you get incredible recipes delivered right to your doorstep. And here's the kicker. Add a 10-ounce ranch steak to your weekly order for just $1 per box. Yes, $1 steaks for life. That's raising the stakes for dinner, my friends. And speaking of saving, Every Plate is America's best value meal kit. I was a bit skeptical at first, thinking, meal kits might break the bank, but guess what? Every Plate's meals are cheaper than your average fast casual meal. So you can save big and still enjoy fresh, satisfying meals. I took that extra money I saved and I treated myself to something special. But here's the real game changer for me, the variety. With over 25 tasty and affordable recipes that change weekly, you'll never get bored. Breakfast 24/7, 15 minutes or less meals, feel-good food, and big batch saves. They've got it all. And let's not forget the sides with breakfast items, lunches, snacks, desserts, and more. Now here's the scoop. Get started with Every Plate for just $1.49 per meal plus $1 steaks for life. Head to everyplate.com/podcast and enter the code 49STAY-HOT. Remember, your subscription must be active to qualify for that $1 steak. That's up to $110 in value. I've genuinely loved my experience with Every Plate, and I know you will too. So let's sizzle into the new year with delicious, affordable meals. Head to everyplate.com/podcast and use the code 49STAY-HOT and make your 2024 your tastiest year yet.
So let's talk about this week's Prize Picks game of the week. San Francisco versus Detroit, the NFC Conference Championship game. The Packers are not in it, which means they can't lose it.
Which means I won't be watching.
Well, you already lost to the 49ers,
which means
so
I'll be watching. Yeah, I'll be watching stress-free. Anyway, we got San Francisco. Let's say San Francisco is on offense. They're facing the Lions defense. What are we expecting?
For the Lions' sake, I hope that doesn't happen.
you hope that Brock Purdy never takes the field.
Just hold the ball for like 30 minutes at every
really
half.
long drive.
If you can pull it off in Madden, you can pull it off in real life.
What is the longest possible drive you could have? Like all.
Oh God!
Like it takes all 4 downs.
You start at the 1, and you could run 2 minutes and 40 seconds per set of downs. If you run every time and you pick it up on 4th down every time, and you would get 10 sets of downs. So you could run about 25 or so minutes.
That's pretty good.
Maybe
so that's what Gibbs needs to do.
Gibbs.
This all rides on Jahmyr Gibbs.
You're avoiding. So we're not expecting the Lions defense to hold up.
Well, like what answers do they have to the 49ers weapons? Who are they sticking on Kittle?
Blitz. Probably.
Yeah, this is what I had written down. I think they have no answers for the Niners' 40 weapons. Even if Debo doesn't play, I'm worried about, the Lions' corners are weak. Their linebackers, they don't have anybody who can hang with him, and McCaffrey's going to do his thing. So if I'm them, I'm sending heat, and I'm banking on Purdy making mistakes like he did against Green Bay. And if you do that, and you can have a similar, offensive performance to the Packers, except Goff doesn't, throw a bad interception at the end of the game, or if they, hit their field goals, then you hope you can pull it out. I have written down, I don't see why the Lions couldn't, be feisty in this game like the Packers were. I don't see what particular reason that is, but I wonder if Purdy just doesn't make those same mistakes again. And I really do think that like the rain made him miss some throws that he wouldn't have otherwise. And I think if we play a clean weather game, which I believe we're called for, 70 degrees, perfect weather. I wonder if the 49ers run away with this one too, though.
Ooh. Yeah, I agree. I think possible. That their only hope is if they just kick the 49ers front's shit in, basically. I think that if the pass rush isn't getting home, I don't see any possible way that they win.
Yeah. Hutchinson's been on one recently.
He has been on one. You can't say that their pass rush hasn't been on one recently. It really has. So that's why I give the Lions a bit of a shot in this. The Packers were able to get some pressure.
Right.
And Purdy, I thought that he really wasn't in create mode at all last game against the Packers. He was kind of stuck on his landmark, and he made a lot of contested throws, and he's short, and the Packers are all like gigantic people. They just draft the biggest defensive lineman every year. So I really thought that was causing issues for him, throwing over and like around people. And yeah, I think if the Lions pass rush can have that type of success, and they've been having that type of success recently, they can force a questionable Purdy game. And Purdy hasn't been crazy impressive in the playoffs to me ever. His stats were really good in that Seahawks game, but I remember that one being a little shaky. And then I remember the Packers game being a little shaky.
I remember the Seahawks defense being really bad that game.
Yeah, the defense was leaving people open. He had some like egregious underthrows that were caught, like some missed open ones, but everybody they couldn't cover a crosser at all. So of course he hit like a bunch of them and never ended up turning the ball over. Yeah, I can't remember anything about the San Francisco offense when they played Dallas in the playoffs. I just remember Dak and his 3 picks. Was that a great Purdy game? Maybe I'm like selectively forgetting.
I can't remember at all, to be completely honest with you.
Yeah.
19 possibly. For 29, 214 yards. I just skimmed the box score because I don't remember exactly how Purdy played.
The PFF grade.
249 yards? Yeah, he's ass.
The PFF grade would tell me.
He's going to have an 81 is my guess.
I don't know. I mean, he's been pretty. I mean, he didn't have a good game against the Ravens, and he didn't have a good game last week. And that's like what, 2 of his last 3 games. He could put up another stinker. I kind of believe that he won't, though.
Yeah,
I think the weapons are going to cook. I think the weather will be better. I think he's going to have a good game. But if the Lions can, if I'm wrong and he doesn't, and the Lions get pressure to him, like I honestly think they will be able to, then they're totally in that ball game. So it really all comes down to Brock, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think the way he plays is a total wild card, unlike Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson. Like the way Brock plays, I am not convinced he won't have a bad one, like a really bad one. I think that he's kind of been flirting with some bad performances that have looked really good on paper in the playoffs, and those cards can come crashing down kind of quickly, I think. It's not a guarantee either way, is all I'm saying, because in the second half of the season, like after the Jaguars game, like that offense and Brock were hitting on absolutely all cylinders and everybody was playing great. So I don't think that that's like left the 49ers either, even though it was kind of a dogfight against the Packers. I don't think the days of the 49ers just being a buzzsaw are like guaranteed over just because it's the playoffs against a defense that's ranked poorly. So yeah, I don't know how it'll go. I lean. I think the Lions defense is I think the pressure on Brock is gonna cause some bad mistakes. I'll stay on that side. I'll pick them to keep it close.
I'll say Brock has the Lions to cover.
Sure.
Yeah, I think the Lions can cover.
I think they'll get pressure on Brock, and I think Brock will have maybe not an awful game, but I think it'll be, not his best.
That would be very interesting. If Brock were to have like a total stinker, what would you even do if you were the 49ers?
Call Dallas and get Trey Lance back.
Darnold. I don't know.
Bo Nix.
I don't know. It would be
bring Felipe Franks in.
Felipe Franks. There we go.
Run the Wildcat all day and try to redefine the sport to the point where quarterback like truly doesn't matter. That'd probably be your best bet.
Felipe Franks and CMC just wreaking havoc.
Bring in Jim Harbaugh. Colin Kaepernick's a free agent.
That was so true.
Greg Roman. Go back to 2012.
That'd be sweet.
Yeah. It's so true.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. Maybe I'll lean. I don't know.
Well, let's talk about the Lions offense for a second. Let's talk about the Lions offense. So we think Brock will have an up and down performance. Not necessarily all down, not necessarily all up. Won't look maybe like an elite quarterback, perhaps.
Yeah.
Then there's Goff, who also is getting the game manager label, who also like could throw a bad one under pressure.
Right.
So what do we think will happen there?
Well, here's the thing. Is Goff even going to face pressure? They have the best offensive line in football.
With some major injuries.
That's true.
And if those guys are out, which I think one is doubtful and one is questionable. So take that how you will. Ragnow's questionable, and
I'm reading the headline.
Jackson.
Frank Ragnow expects to play despite 4 injuries, not just one.
Oh no!
Big time.
This is either going to be the best offensive line performance of all time or the worst.
I think.
Yeah, it's going to be it's going to be gritty no matter what. That's one thing that we'll have to be able to say about it.
What's their thing right now? All grit?
Is that what they're saying?
I think that's what the Lions.
I haven't heard
their
that.
Twitter hashtag or whatever. It's like hashtag all grit.
Fair enough.
But
yeah, I mean, I think they could get some work done that way. The offensive line just has to have a big game. You have to hope that the 49ers, their defensive line didn't go that crazy.
They lost a lot with They lost a lot when D'Amico Ryans left. They just don't have the freakish pressure package that they used to, and it's honestly one of the more bland in the league, I think. And they have the personnel. Go ahead.
Wilkes is a big time blitz guy, obviously. He has been for a long time, but it's never been super, super crazy. I know the couple of times that they really blitzed Love ended up in 2 pretty big throws.
Yeah, they've got, both of these teams have a corner that could be your Joker moment. This is a religious experience for every football fan when they're in the playoffs and one of their corners just can't hold up. You see it all the time. At least I think you do. I'm a Packer fan. It happens yearly. There's just a new guy and they just get cooked. And both of these teams have a potential weak link. And you saw it versus the Packers with Ambry Thomas, and you saw it versus the Bucks with Sutton.
Yeah.
So I think that could be a factor for both sides.
Hey, everyone. Quick ticket buying update. Say goodbye to the stress with Game Time. Now, I know we usually talk about that fantastic $20 off with the code BLAIDENK, but hold on, because we've got something big for you here today. How about a whopping $100 off your ticket to the big game in Vegas? Yeah, you heard that right. You can use the code VEGAS100, available for all users and not just the new ones. Now, realistically, $100 off a ticket worth a couple of thousand might not sound like a fortune, but hey, still $100. And guess what you can do with that $100 in Vegas? The possibilities are endless. Now, here's the kicker. $100 off the top of Game Time's lowest price guarantee. No kidding. See your seat view, get all in prices up front, and snag the best deal, because Game Time is truly committed to your peace of mind. So here's the deal. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code VEGAS100 for $100 off your big game ticket. Terms apply, and remember, this offer is for all users, but wait, we're not going to forget our regular deal. You can still use the code BLAIDENK and get an additional $20 off, just like you would any other event. So don't miss out on last-minute tickets at the lowest price, guaranteed, by downloading Game Time today, and make every event unforgettable. Cheers to stress-free ticketing and extra cash in Vegas.
What is the 49ers blitz rate?
It can't be high because Wilkes doesn't really get to run his own thing. Like when you come to San Francisco, they do it a certain way. And I don't think that it's been pure Wilkes. They still like to bring mostly just a straight 4 from what I've seen.
Yeah, I feel like I see Warner and Greenlaw in coverage a lot. And
you want to keep them there, and they will come. Like it's not like they have the lowest blitz rate in the league. They bring 15% of the time. That's 24th in the league. They bring 5% of the time.
They blitzed more than that. I know Wilkes. Look, I know Wilkes did when it was up to him.
Yes,
I promise you that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like you're right. Like about Wilkes, but just in San Francisco, when you're the defensive coordinator, I feel like you're kind of the like secondary coordinator, and without D'Amico there, like they just don't quite have the juice that they had in years prior, even with better personnel, which is really bad. Like if you have better personnel, no matter what your blitz package is, like you kind of should just have better production if you have better guys. But you know, after being like the best last year and then adding Chase Young and Javon Hargrave, they're worse. So
yeah,
it's not right.
It's not good. It's not a good look for Steve Wilkes. I will say, I don't think that it's necessarily all his fault because of the structure in San Francisco, but yeah, it has not been a great time watching their pass rush this year and what it's capable of, because they all move so like well. Like Nick Bosa is just such a freak, and he's really good still. So maybe they'll just put him on Decker and he'll win 5 times and create 2 sacks and a forced fumble or something like that. So it still could happen, but I don't know. The 49ers defense
right now that says the 49ers send sim pressures at a rate of 2.7%.
That sounds about right. They're not fun to watch. Like
so low compared to the league average of like 15%.
That 100% checks out to me when I watch them. Like they don't do really anything that fancy anymore. And
that just sounds so stagnant.
It is stagnant. But they have Fred Warner and they have Nick Bosa.
Yeah.
And Fred Warner, like by himself, takes away so much of what the Lions like to do. Like you want to run to the perimeter, he's over there. You want to throw it to Sam Laporta, like he's over it. You want to throw it to Gibbs out of the back, like he does all that shit. Like he's the perfect guy.
Yeah.
It's so unfair that the 49ers have like the best player to stop their offense on their team. Like it's why they always kick the Packers' ass and everybody's ass in the NFC every year.
Yeah, because they have Fred Warner.
Yeah, so
he rules, man. He rules.
Their safeties are banged up now that Hufanga's hurt. It's like Logan Ryan and Gibson. I could see
respect
that
to
being
Sean
a problem
Gibson.
if you get some athleticism on them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Isn't Reynolds banged up too? Am I making that up?
On the Lions?
Yeah. I could be. It concerns me a little bit because I think the Lions are pretty thin at receiver.
Is Matt lying? Let's find out.
Yeah, he is lying? He's dealing with a rib issue, but
he was telling the truth.
Anyway.
Yeah.
It all bakes into a defense that I think is pretty good. I think it's good for defending the Lions specifically because they have Fred Warner. But Ben Johnson is going to get his too, I think. I mean,
and the Packers got some work done on the 49ers. I don't see why the Lions couldn't.
Yeah, that's how I feel.
Yeah.
It's not going to be easy because of the personnel and because of Warner and Bosa, but they can certainly do it. There's enough, like they're going to have the schematic advantage. And like, there's not a lot of talent mismatches, but they just don't send a lot of man coverage. So like Ben Johnson would probably rather face zone.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't disagree. I'll say the Lions cover.
I think so too.
I think the Lions cover. Maybe Purdy goes crazy and the Lions defense just gets torched, but I think there's a world where he has an okay game and the Lions fight and keep it close. I think it's 7.5 right now or something for the record.
Jeez. Yeah, I think they can definitely cover 7.5 because they're not that different than the Packers. Like their defense can allow a lot of yards and their offense has a genius play caller and a lot of good players around them. You know, like the formula, the Packers took them to the end, and then the Lions are like the slightly better version of the Packers, you'd think, since they won the division. So I think they can cover. I think it might follow the same script where it like looks good, and then the 49ers just have too many stars and they pull away at the end, maybe. But I think I give the Lions a.
Yeah, I mean, you're asking the Lions to keep it within a 1-score game.
I think they can do it.
Yeah. I like those odds.
I have to agree.
But hey, those are our. So we're unanimous on both of our conference championship picks, which might be a little bit unfun, but like
not atypical on this podcast. We just tend to agree.
We're just very non-confrontational. You know?
I'm not going to make up something to fight you guys on, you know?
Let's bring on someone who disagrees with us. Let's I don't even know.
Big Chiefs and 49ers Super Bowl. No one is rooting for that matchup. I've seen like everybody say like we need a 49ers Baltimore rematch because those are the best two teams, or we want to see the Lions in the Super Bowl. But it's never the Chiefs that anybody wants to see, especially when it's combined with the 49ers. Like if
the Chiefs make it, a new team get a shot at it.
Oh, it totally makes sense, but like that would just be the doomsday scenario. And for Twitter, they'd be like, "This is not going to get any." The ratings would start to come in.
Well, I mean, like. I think this is objectively true. Super Bowl is far, far worse off when no team that has never won it is in it. Like way worse.
The Super Bowl is worse when someone that has never won it is there.
So isn't there?
Oh, isn't there? Okay.
Yeah. Super Bowl needs a team that's never gotten it before that's hungry for one, man.
Yeah,
it's always so much more interesting than that.
Yeah.
It's like... Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think both are interesting. I think that there is something that is good about a dynasty.
No.
I think the league would honestly be worse. Throughout its history, it would be less intriguing if there were not dynasties. If it was like truly someone completely random every year and there was no discernible like runs of teams that were like got a couple rings, that like I like that there's dynasties. I just think that is...
I'm not saying I disagree, but why?
It's about balance. You know, you have some teams that have never made it. You have some teams that always make it.
I mean, a season's not a very long time. a season's... You want storylines that span multiple seasons. You don't want it just a complete shakeup every single year. Like, that would be crazy.
I actually think this take sucks.
Like, imagine if
Packers fans sitting here, actually, you want the same teams to be good over and over. It's when it's your
Panthers
team,
fans,
bro. A Panthers fan would like his team to sometimes.
You think the NFL would
be
better next year if just like it was just like shuffle the deck and it was all just
doesn't
completely
have to be completely
different?
Shuffled. If as long as my Panthers drew the king, like it would be better.
I mean, the way that it's structured is just like the fabric of reality and like what humans and roster building is capable of. So it will always be this way. But I'm glad that it is how it is with it's usually like there's a dynasty and a couple extra rings sprinkled in there. And it can be
AI grading takes over and all the bad teams just draft the guys with the highest, PFF
when the
AI
draft
grades.
when the draft gets perfect.
Yeah.
It'll be like that.
I don't think AI would ever be able to have any hope of judging how good players were.
They're going to be laughing you're going to be at Old Takes Exposed in 2336, bro.
I don't care. Here's another take for you. Old Takes Exposed. Not a fan. I think it's mean. And I don't
someone who's been
I don't think I've ever been on it. I think you have.
I've been on it like 5 times.
But here's what I don't like about it. The person posting that has no stakes.
Yes.
So you're not in the game whatsoever. You're not out here giving that's so bogus. Anybody can just be like, you were wrong. Like everybody's going to be wrong if they're actually out there playing the game a little bit.
I agree. I think that
they were right. And way better account, way cooler,
way better. I was going to say, what are your thoughts on the
when you were right? Well, that's awesome.
Knew or they already knew.
Yeah, they already knew is what it was.
I'm one to talk, but I think about what like accountability looks like in a sports journalist, I don't think it's like straight up apologizing for takes you were wrong with, which people always demand with me. Like if I say something, if I give it a take and it doesn't turn out, people think like that's what's morally wrong with sports journalism, is like predictions don't come true. Like they actually think that that's like some integrity failure if you predict something, and they're like, case it is, apologize. It is like a morally unsound thing to do as an analyst to make a prediction. And your character as a journalist is up for debate as this take is in the air. And if it comes wrong, you have to apologize or you're not taking accountability. That's such a prevalent mindset in sports. Like that, I get that all the time. Like and the Old Take Expose feeds into that in such a way. I feel like it's like, that's not really what's wrong. Making predictions and making takes isn't like the cardinal sin of an analyst. It's like doing what Acho did and saying, you know, I'm all in this for a bag. Like that's when you have to apologize as a journalist. And maybe it's not that deep with Old Takes Exposed, but he doesn't have any skin in the game. And I think that it upholds kind of a weird mindset on what an analyst's like job is. Obviously I try to be right, but
I don't mind it when like, if the person was being really obnoxious or they were talking trash and they like whiffed really bad, or they're like, you're an idiot if you think Patrick Mahomes could ever possibly be any good, that's maybe a little bit different. But if someone's like, I think the Browns are going to win this game, and then they lose by like 20 or something, it's like, okay, I don't really care.
Exactly.
Man.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And some of them fall into that category.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. It's really not. Some of them are funny, but sometimes it's like, come on, dude. Like it's the draft.
Like let them live. Yeah, like the draft or whatever. It's like
sue me, man.
I don't know. It just seems really snarky to me. You know, to just be like, wow, really, you missed this bad in the draft, and then somebody who just like that's all they do. That's lame.
Yeah.
And they all they do is just like round up people to go attack some dude on Twitter for giving a bad draft take. Like that sucks, man.
Yeah, I agree. And the court of public opinion kind of decides like if someone's being really obnoxious.
We're going to say every player that gets drafted, they're good.
Yeah, that would be the key. But
everyone's good.
Yeah, I think you're right, Matt. That account is slightly lame. If that was like your favorite sports account on Twitter, I'd be like, something is very wrong with you. Very wrong with you.
But back to what we were talking about. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think AI is gonna be able to grade players perfectly. I didn't even say this when we were talking about it. I don't think PFF's problem, part of its problem is probably the man hours, but I just think it doesn't work.
Yeah, I think grades are tough.
Maybe.
To circle all the way back.
To an extent, I think AI could be helpful, but I think they already do some stuff with AI. I don't know.
I don't want to write off any of AI's potential impact just because we have.
I think some people have been doing that a little bit too much. They're going a little bit too far. They're like, this could never be useful for anything. It's like, dude, it might.
Yeah, I think
Old Takes Exposed in 20 years, man.
Yeah, that is exactly. Old Takes Exposed is going to get you in.
Yeah,
30,
AI is gonna be running Stay Hot in 10 years. Don't.
We got a long way to go to work on this stuff, but I don't know. I think Detroit is going to cover. to circle back before.
You know, Theo,
to put a bow on this whole.
When you wrote Garrett Joff on your board before we started recording, I thought you were gonna pick Detroit. That was my thought. Was like, oh, he's gonna. But no,
I was just goofing.
Yeah, just being a little goof. Fair enough.
Being a goofball, yeah. Anyway.
Well, I think that pretty much wraps things up for this episode. We will be back to, of course, recap these conference championship games. Should be exciting. We'll go live during one of them. We'll let you guys know, of course, on Twitter which one that one will be. But until then, thank you all so much for tuning in, and we will catch you on the flippity flop.